Yep. Give me a nod when you're ready.
Like
Shooter's ready. Stand by.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Goodlock from the 3GIQ podcast. I'm here with my co-host Frank Gow, and I got a special guest, a good friend I've known for a long time, Nick Collier. Nick Collier works for DoubleStar Rifles. He's a good old Kentucky boy, and since we're on Kentucky, and you probably see me drinking bourbon every now and again, or hear me drinking it, my bourbon for this show is going to be the Blade and Bow. And I'm going to be drinking it out of my very special Red Stitch Targets cup. But before we go any further, Nick, can you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself and tell the listeners what they want to know?
Yeah. So my name is Nick Collier. I've been with DoubleStar since 2002. So I'm about just over 20 years with the company. We're based out of Winchester, Kentucky. So that's where the bourbon references are going to come from. And since Matt has his Blade and Bow, I'm going to show you. We've got several years ago, we had bought a barrel of Buffalo Trace and had it private labeled. So there's a little sticker on there. And since this is a special occasion and first time I've been on 3 Gun IQ, here's to you fellas with some Buffalo.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, so DoubleStar's been around since 1978. Started off Jack and Teresa Starnes. Actually started selling reloading components out of the back of their little car, and it was like a Pinto or something of that nature, he said. And they had a couple tackle boxes full of stuff, and it just kind of grew from there. Became a family business. The son, Jesse, who is our VP now, he is there. When he was a kid, him and his grandmother, they would box orders, box kits, box parts, and send them out because Jack and Teresa would get in the car, start on the East Coast and do shows all the way across to the West Coast and then work their way back doing shows. So they'd be gone several weeks at a time and just phoning in orders for Granny and Jesse to get them out. So that's how it kind of got started. When I started, there was about 10 of us. And we have kind of course, the boom and bust of politics and things that caused the industry to boom and all that. We've had as many as 75 employees. Right now, we're running at about 30. And just trying to maintain. We do AR-15s, M16s, all the little parts and pieces. We've got a 25,000 square foot machining shop with CNC lathes, mills, screw machine, all kinds of good stuff in there. None of it that I'm allowed to touch because nobody wants that. But anyway, I take care of the marketing side of business. Myself and Justin Moses. He's my right-hand man, and we get out there and we handle your email blast, your social media, going out to some of the shows. Of course, the 3 Gun team is something I handle, and just whatever they ask me to do. It's a family business. So Jesse is actually my brother-in-law. His wife and my wife are sisters. So I'm part of the family, about as close as you can be without having your name on anything. So it's been a really good experience working for family. I highly recommend it if you've got a good family to work with. I know it doesn't work out for everybody, but I've had a really good experience in my 20 years there, and I'm looking forward to more.
No, that's awesome. Appreciate it. I didn't even know some of that stuff about the company. I remember you telling me about some of it, but no, that's great. And I mean, honestly, like you and I have talked in the past, and it's one of the things that drew me to DoubleStar. The family mentality, the family mindset, everybody taking care of each other. And I think, that's one thing that I really love about 3 Gun, but that's one thing I really loved about the company. From the first time you and I met, it was at Blue Ridge 3 Gun Championship.
Yep.
And it was, me and you just tracking up and down a hill, about 150 yards up a hill and 150 yards back down a hill. all day pretty much. And it was just like you and I just really got to know each other, and
Yeah.
like we just carried that friendship forth. And that's one thing I love about this sport is you may only see that person once or twice a year,
Mhm.
but it's in a sense it's kind of like the Marine Corps. It's like you never even left each other. Like
That's right.
the,
That's
the
right.
the relationship just continues, and it's like, hey, what's up, man? Been a while, and you
Yep.
just kind of carry on. But so for this episode, we're going to be looking at things from a bit of a different perspective. We talked to members of the Marine Corps shooting team. We've talked to match directors. Now we want to talk to somebody who's been in the industry and has seen the ebbs and flows of time. And so through your many years working for DoubleStar, what has been the thing that has really kept you around this industry for as long as it has?
Well, like you said, the family atmosphere where I work is very inviting. There's been some really, really good perks to working for family. Like my son was able to go to work with me every day through the younger years. So he grew up in our shop, and so did my nephews. And anybody could do that. It wasn't just us. If the school got canceled or snowed out, you'd see 10 people's kids running around the shop just having a good time, because what are they going to do with them? Can we shut down the shop so these people can take care of the kids, or we just let them come on in? So they'd bring their kids in, we'd have pizza and have a good time. So individually, DoubleStar, that's kind of been part of the big reason why I've stayed around so long. But outside of that, it's people. It's real simple. For me anyway. I'm a people person. I always say once you're in, you're in. And I'm gonna love you just like my brother from then on. And that's the way I try to treat people. But I've noticed that a lot of people do that here in the industry. It's not just me. Everybody has their own way of doing it, and that's what's special. But I think the people very inviting, very willing to help you out. If you run into a snag when you're trying to either develop a product or test a product or whatever, there's always a good safety net for you to fall back on and say, hey, I'm really having struggles with this. What do you know? And then you get a huge variety of backgrounds, whether it be military, whether it be industry, whether it be 3-gun or whatever, to input on a problem and really solve it instead of just doing it one view. You have all those perspectives. So I think that's probably another good reason why the industry is so good.
Oh yeah.
Nick, I'd like to ask about some of the possible misconceptions you might have had before starting to work in the firearms industry. So, out of all those, like whatever you thought it was going to be like, how much of that ended up being true and how much of it ended up being different?
Well, here's going to be a funny story, maybe a funny answer to that. Is I had zero firearms experience when I started working here. Like I said, I was a young kid. I actually did part-time before I started full-time while I was in college. And I really came in wanting to be a police officer at that point in my life. And I thought this would be a great way to learn about firearms, and because police officers have to have them. My father was not a hunter. He had a hunting rifle and a pump shotgun and a revolver, like every hillbilly in Eastern Kentucky, and that's what we had. So I shot each of those, I think, once. So I always thought firearms were cool, but it wasn't a big thing in my house. So it wasn't something that I thought about, like, oh, this is going to be scary or whatever. I really just jumped in with both feet and took off.
So it's often new shooters get into the sport, and it can be quite intimidating to shoot a match and see guys with jerseys, even at the local level. But some of the so-called professional shooters, and some of the people that get into the sport are enamored by the jersey. Some just see it for what it is, just being, hey, it's just a guy wearing a jersey representing a company. When choosing of individuals to represent your team, what qualities do you look for in those individuals? Do you look for, because we've seen the many different versions of the pro shooter, quote unquote. Some have big personalities. Some are guys that are just, the quiet guy on the sideline shooting his own game. What do you look for?
Number one is integrity, period. Just like I look for in a friend, I'm going to have to work with these people and they're going to be representing DoubleStar. So that's a huge, huge deal to me. When I go out on the range, I make sure I represent DoubleStar the way it should be done. And I expect everybody that wears our colors to do the same thing. When people are bouncing around all over the place or breaking down on the range because they had a bad stage and they're throwing things and they're cussing and having a little hissy fit. I see that. I've been in this now. I've been shooting competitions for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You build a reputation for things, as we both know, or all three of us know, who you want to shoot with and who you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of thing. I want DoubleStar people to be people that you want to shoot with. I want them to be the ones that will help you when you need help. Not just like resetting. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. But if somebody has a problem with a piece of equipment, they're the guys or girls that are going to hand them out and be like, "Here, use mine." Those are the kind of people we're looking for. Just nice, easy to talk to, approachable, but most of all, impeccable integrity that are going to represent very well on the range. It doesn't really matter if you're a top 10 shooter. That's a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the people on our team right now. Not everybody's a top 10 shooter. Most of them aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But they're smart people. They're good people. They put you up on their couch if you needed it. And it's another good knowledge base to tap into.
They're people who truly care about each other,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just brought in, Rob Hall, and
Right.
That's like a great addition to the team. Like everybody who's on the East Coast really knows who Rob is, and he's just a really inviting guy. Who's just willing to help. He goes out, he ROs matches, or he's there, that squad mate that is constantly helping reset all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, and he knows he tries to get to know everybody. And Scott Noonan is the same way.
Yeah.
John Mark
Yeah,
Burden,
sure.
just real nice, quiet individual, but just he could be really funny. Just like real inviting and great people.
That's it. That's what we're looking for is great people, not necessarily great shooters. That's a bonus because they let me on the team. So
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, to follow on that that discussion, a lot of people will see those sponsored shooters and they won't necessarily see all those character traits and all the hard work that got them to where they were and where got them selected, right? And you said it yourself, it's more important that they're a good person, a good guy or girl than a good shooter. What's some advice that you would give to some younger shooters that are going out there and seeking some of those sponsorships?
So for the younger shooters, one, being out there I think is huge because we get a lot of emails and things where people who are looking for sponsorship, and most of them I've never heard of. And I'm talking about people that I might have run into. I'm not talking West Coast, which we're trying to get to. We'll work on that later. But people that I may have seen at the range, and you never see them at a match, you never see them doing things. I would tell young people, make sure you're getting out there, and when you're there, making sure you're meeting people. Because again, that's a huge knowledge base to learn from there. And if you see somebody who's doing something that you think, wow, that's really cool, go talk to them. Don't be afraid to talk to these people. That's one thing, like you said, these jerseys get people all tore up, and they're just people.
Yep.
Celebrities, they're just people. Shooters, they're just people. And most of them bought their own jersey, if we're going to be real about it.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are like, well, I use these products, so I'm just going to throw these logos on a jersey.
Exactly. And, there's really no way unless you go to every match and to police that. But most people, like, I'll get random people sometimes that'll say, hey, do you care if I put your logo on my jersey? I use your stuff. So, I'll start digging and trying to find something about them before I give them permission, because I don't know who you are. You can be a complete spaz. You've broken the 180 17 times in one match. You never know. People are nuts. So you always want to make sure that you're talking to people, you're meeting people, and you're learning, and you keep yourself humble. Because just like you fellas know, when you get some whippersnapper coming in and kicking your ass, which has happened more than once to me, but let's talk Brittany. for example, 14 years old, was kicking my butt. But anyway, we won't get into that. But anyway, that's humbling to somebody like me, but can also really inflate a kid's ego.
Mhm.
You know, and if you're one of those kids that's into social media and that kind of stuff, that can be a huge tool for you if done correctly. But if
Mhm.
not, it can be your, kind of your undoing as well.
So James Gill and we've had this discussion many different times on the subject of sponsored shooter slash brand ambassador title. And we see guys, who wear the jerseys jump from company to company every year. And in my opinion, it shows a lack of loyalty and shows that that person is just chasing the next greatest thing. And they're only there to help themselves rather than trying to help build a company or build a brand. Being that you've been doing this for a long time, how do you view individuals who jump company to company, or what are things that you watch out for when bringing on somebody new?
Well, that's just it. If I've seen them wear, three or four different people's jerseys, let's just say ARs, or whatever, and they've switched, bounced around year to year. That's exactly what I see is a lack of loyalty. Somebody just looking for either a bigger paycheck, which is fine. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, maybe they got more free stuff from one person than the other. But yeah, it's when I'm looking at people, I'm always looking at, and the same thing with interviewing people for a job. You want some consistency in their history, and maybe they're jumping for a good reason. That's
Yeah.
the other thing you got to ask is there's always two sides to every story, and luckily in the industry,
It's small.
It's small, and there's been a couple times that people have heard that we were talking to somebody, and they have called me and said, "Listen, these are the things you need to watch out for," and that's caused me to either pursue, to dig, or go the other way, because somebody I trusted has contacted me and let me know, hey, you might want to watch out for them because this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if we sign somebody on, let's say they're young, okay, and they have a couple meltdowns, because that's happened too.
Yeah.
I don't see that as a reason to just cut them off. We're in a unique position to mentor these young people, especially in the 2A world, but as people, as humans. And if people just cut them off because they make a mistake,
what are you teaching them? You're teaching them that turns into the one thing I hate is, well, this company just has a zero defect mentality.
right.
Nobody learns anything from a zero defect mentality.
Right. And so I told you Jack and Teresa started this. Well, Teresa passed away about 6-7 years ago, but she was Mother Teresa. That's what I called her, because she kind of had the same mentality. Maybe she taught me a little bit too, but to bring everybody in. And when somebody's struggling, you don't just cast them out. You hug them up a little, you love them up a little, or you rough them up a little, whatever you got to do to get their attention, and then try to guide them and point them on the right path. And with young people, I think that's something we can do here. And even these jersey jumpers, maybe they're just looking for the right fit. So it's a turn off, but at the same time, could I be convinced otherwise? Yes.
Yeah, completely fair. While we're on the topic of jerseys, so the impression could be that when people look at a sponsored shooter, they just assume that that person represents the company, is actively trying to push that company's like products on other shooters. We all know, since we've shot for a while, that that's not necessarily the case. Some people are good
No.
stewards of their companies, and they also are like just good people in general. But there's also people out there who will send out their discount codes and actively try to get, because maybe they're making a commission or something. So how do you think a sponsored shooter can get over that you're just a shill skepticism from the shooting community and end up helping people out in a way that doesn't necessarily benefit their company, but does end up benefiting the sport?
So I think that happens with reputation over time. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to assume that if I'm walking up to somebody I don't know and they're representing a brand, and I'm going to ask them a question that would fit into that brand, they're going to bring that in, because one, that's their job. That's what they're being paid somehow or another to do. But also, like you said, time, a reputation, that's going to take a minute because they're not going to know. Like I said, I'm going to assume that you're going to do that as soon as I walk up. So you just got to give people a chance. And if you ask somebody a question, and they go push you straight to their stuff, maybe without really trying to learn what the problem is or what the concern is, maybe those are the people you should watch out for. But I mean, I'm guilty of it. I've done 1 million gun shows in my 20 years here, and people will walk up wanting to buy a pigtail gas tube for something they don't need a pigtail gas tube for, and spend $80 on a gas tube. And I'll say, buddy, you don't need that. And I'll sell them a $10 gas tube, and they'll walk away, and they'll have what they need. Hopefully, they come back with their other $70 and buy something else.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, that's what it takes, is just building that up. And on the range, eventually you'll build that reputation as somebody you can go to with questions and not be hammered with, well, DoubleStar said you need this.
Yeah, I think some people get away with, like, they give off the impression that they care about other people just as much as they care about their own performance. Seems pretty prevalent in the 3-gun community. I don't think it's as prevalent in the USPSA. That makes people stand out for sure.
Yeah, I think the difference between kind of the outlaw 3-gun crowd versus the more structured USPSA group is quite discernible as soon as, because I've always done 3-gun. And I went to shoot a USPSA match and I felt completely out of place. Like, I felt like I had walked in with 2 6-shooters on my hip, like, oh, that's not how this goes. So, luckily there was a couple people. Kenzie was there, so she kind of helped me not look like a complete idiot.
Were you shooting PCC then, or were you shooting production limited?
No, it was actually a match at Camp Davy Crockett that they had set up to kind of show that they could put on matches down there.
Okay.
And, Greg Leach is one of the board members on that council down there, and they're trying to get a really nice place built. They've got a huge room for 1,000-yard range down there, and they're talking like 25 bays.
Oh wow!
Making it a real legitimate shooting facility and a Boy Scout camp. So
where's that at?
It's in just outside of Knoxville.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we took our scouts down. I'm a scoutmaster too, so I took my scouts down there 2 summers in a row, and they love it. But yeah, so anyway, we were down there just trying to help them out and show up and get some people out there. And I shot my 3-gun pistol because that's what I have. I didn't get all kitted up or anything like that. I run what I run.
Yep. Now, that's the biggest thing I generally tell people to do. Don't go out buy all the Gucci gear at first. Learn the sport, use what you got, then make a decision on what is it that you want to run after you have a good leg up.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not run out and buy the stuff you see after your first match. Now, you may see something you need, like if you put in your shells in your pockets, maybe get you a shell caddy of some sort. But you don't need to go buy a $4,000 or $5,000 pistol, rifle, shotgun, come back the next time and be ready to go. It doesn't really work that way.
So, sponsored shooters have this unique opportunity where they can really influence the way, people think on and off the range. Have you ever seen a sponsored shooter influence the way you've run your business and marketed your business?
That's a good question. I'll tell you 2 people who have really influenced me, 2 industry people. Let me say that a different way. One industry person, one sort of industry person. So I'm talking about Diana Lydorf and Tony Pignato. So Tony used to be here local to me.
Okay.
He would teach at the Velocity Corps training center down there at Bud's. So Bud's Gun Shop, which a lot of people know about Bud's Gun Shop, is actually like 10 minutes from my house.
Okay.
Bud Wells is a good friend of ours. He doesn't run it anymore, but it's there. Now, where was I going with all that? What was the question again?
How have sponsored shooters influenced the way you've run your business?
Oh, right. So anyway, Tony and Diana put on this class at SHOT Show one year, and it was a how to be a good representative brand ambassador for your sponsor, and then how as a sponsor you can do things to help your brand ambassadors and your sponsorees, if you will. And it was just like an hour class, and I went and took that class, and I was friends with both of them when I got there already, so I knew them. But there was also several other people in that class that I knew that had their jerseys on and were there to learn. So that was pretty cool. But after that, I really started watching what those two people did, because in that class, they gave us several good things on both sides. And I really started watching Tony, and then he moved to Staccato, and now he's doing all their stuff. And also, of course, Diana, she does stuff for several people, her and her husband. So they're both good examples of people who have been in the industry and done well and represent well, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody has a bad day. I get that. But for the most part, they've been very helpful to me. They've been very helpful to other people that I've seen. And that would be one I would say that has really made an impact on how I do things as far as a manufacturer for our people.
As we're talking about some of those sponsored shooters, social media, right, has a huge capacity to either blow things out of proportion or present your personality and your brand in a very positive light. So we'll start with like sponsored shooters. What are some general do's and don'ts? And you might have learned some of those at that workshop that you just mentioned. And then specifically like some of the things that you've seen on social media that you would advise shooters to avoid. Yeah, just from a business perspective.
As males, we'll do this as males and females, because I think there's two different kind of sets of rules. Unfortunately, it's not exactly equal. But for guys, I think one, you need to establish yourself first. So your first set of videos needs to be gaining credibility, because if nobody knows who you are, why are they going to watch your videos, right? I think that's important. Representing yourself well, because now you've made yourself your brand. So you have to represent yourself well as your sponsors. So if you're out there and you're a giant a-hole on the range, you're not going to get very many followers. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, you look at those guys that do the videos and everybody's, oh, you can't do that. You can't disarm. Who's that guy that disarms people? Oh, slaps the gun out of their hand and puts them in a headlock, Everybody knows that's bull. So if you're going for that, though, it's okay. Some people use a little parody in their videos, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So you got to kind of establish how you're going to educate people. Are you going to be the by the book, straight edge person, or are you going to be that parody, have a good time? Work that out. And then consistency is the other big thing when you get into social media. Is if you post once every 6 months, nobody's going to pay attention to those posts. But if you're a regular poster throughout the season, you're posting your videos, you're maybe critiquing yourself, saying, well, I could have done this differently. I had this kit, I didn't really need it, or I really needed this. Giving tips and tricks to these new people, because that's where they're going. I mean, think about it. When your dishwasher breaks, what do? You jump on YouTube and you try to figure out what's going on. That's my first go-to when anything breaks, or if I have a question.
Yeah.
It's you go there and you start looking for YouTube University and learn something.
I mean, I guess what you could say, you kind of said consistency is key in this game. And I think it's consistency, not just in how you post in social media, but also consistency in the gear that you wear. Like
Sure.
if you're looking to become the best shooter that you could possibly be, do you think switching out your rifle or switching out parts of your rifle every week or every month or every match is really going to build that consistency? No, and you're not going to represent the product, and you're not going to represent the company well. Having that consistency of saying, hey, this is the same gear I've been running for like 5 years, and I may have tuned it up, you changed barrels, gotten stuff fixed. Like it's all one and the same. I give credit to Jeremy Leitner. Like he's the type of guy. He's like, I've run the same rifle for the past 6 years. Why? Because I've I've come to know everything about this piece of
Mhm.
gear, and I know its flaws, and I know its strengths. And I think whenever it comes across the board, the more you become a consistent person, the more you're going to not only build yourself up as a better shooter and a better influencer, but also a better representative of the company that you are representing.
I agree 100%. And another good example of that is Brian Ray and Brian Vaught.
Oh yeah,
Those
those two
guys
guys.
shoot rifles that they got the first season with us, which was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still Brian Vaught still pulls out his tack irons guns that it's the same one he's had since I don't know, like I said, 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah,
And he's like, send me a text. I'm gonna shoot this gun again, this old gun.
that's awesome. And I, like anytime you hear those two individuals speak, there's two things that are going to come out of it. One, you're going to be laughing your ass off,
oh yeah,
and two, you're going to learn something because they're funny in their approach, but they are absolutely correct with everything that they have to say. And
yeah.
kind of back to the point of consistency, like you nailed it. They've been with the company 8-9 years now. Like they're not jumping around. They're like, this gear is awesome. I know this gear, and I'm gonna keep representing, this product.
Yeah. And I'll say one other person that's been with us. This guy is the OG DoubleStar shooter, and that's Tom Carpenter.
Oh yeah.
And you don't see Tom as much as you used to, and Tom's not on social media.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see him on YouTube making videos. But if you're on the range with him, there's no better guy to have there with you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about just a mountain of knowledge, and he's just such a nice guy that he's real easy to approach. So if you ever see Tom Carpenter on the range and you need to ask somebody a question, that's the man to talk to right there.
Oh, I met Tom last year at the Pro-Am. And really nice guy, like you said. Just really, really nice guy. And I saw the rifle he was shooting. It was a DoubleStar rifle, and I think he had like an 18 or a 20-inch barrel.
Yeah.
He's old school with his type of gear, but he knows what works for him, and he's consistent with his long range shooting.
Oh yeah, and I actually took a pistol class with him. That's actually the first time I hung out with Steve Walker outside of a match. And I mean, somebody that like me who really has no background in it came in there, and by the end of the class, I was feeling pretty good about shooting a pistol. I mean, it really made a big difference. So, fundamentals. When you're reloading, you should be moving this way or that way, or little things that you don't really think about as average Joe shooter just coming in to try this stuff. Tom's a real good guy to know.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure meeting him. I was hoping to see him this year at the Mountain State match, but
right.
I'm sure he had other priorities going on. But
right,
great guy. Like,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, he showed up. So Kinsey put on the Gals Day out there at Camp Davy Crockett on Mother's Day weekend this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed up to my section of the range. I brought down some guns for the ladies to shoot, an M16, let them shoot that, have a little fun. And I saw Tom's truck pulling in, coming around the trees there. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. And then he pulled up, talked to me, and then the pistol section was on up the hill, and that's where everybody else was, and Kinsey was. And he was like, well, she told me she wanted me up there. And I said, you tell her I want you down here. And she did. She sent him back, and he helped me work that range. And I mean, it was just, clockwork, like me and you when we were reset. Just bam, 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 bam. Everything worked real well.
No, that's awesome that all three of you guys are out there helping those kids and, setting all that stuff up.
Oh yeah, that's good fun.
Oh yeah, like I like working with junior shooters. Like some of the junior shooters, like myself and the team have worked with, is like what's his name? Not Kent Freiberger. That's his dad. Can't think of his first name. But Freiberger, great shooter, really good kid. Nate Schmidt, another one. Yeah. Logan Toland. Just like guys that have grown up and have represented their companies well, and just they bring something to the sport. They bring that youth and that energy to a sport that, for a long time there, it's been your, 30-year-old shooters and your, 30, I'd say 30 to 60-year-old shooter range, and it's
Oh.
good to see those teenagers out there just bringing that energy and kind of reinvigorating people to get out there and shoot.
Well, and as old dudes, you don't like to see some kid coming in and eating your lunch. So that makes you work a little harder sometimes, maybe in
Yeah.
your practice sessions.
Yeah.
Not me, but you guys probably.
Yeah. So to kind of continue on, in like three gun through the ages in a sense, and you and I have probably been competing in three gun about the same amount of time. You know, you're at about what, 10 years?
About 10 years. Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting about 8-9 years now. So we're in an era where prize tables aren't what they used to be. You know, when I came into the sport in 2013, 2014, Three Gun Nation was offering $25,000 and $50,000 prize winnings. In 2016, at the FN match, they had $500,000 in prizes on the table. Same year at Blue Ridge Three Gun Championship, you guys, like you and Andy Horner, it was well over $100,000 in prizes on that table. And we won't go into specifics as to the many reasons why sponsoring matches isn't like what it used to be. But companies like DoubleStar, Vortex, Luru, and all the other ones out there that have continued to donate, what do you look for in matches that you donate to? And what does communication with that match director look like? What's a good scenario and what's a bad scenario?
Okay, so a good example, we'll just go with this year, for example. The only match we actually sponsored was the Mountain State Three Gun there in Beckley. Beckley's match is not the most well-known match. It's not the most prestigious match, but it's run by good people. Of course, Brittany Long is on our team. Her dad, James, is the match director there at the Beckley Gun Club, or for that match. And they're good people to work with. They're easy to work with. And they're trying to build something there. And to me, being from the mountains myself, like I said, I'm an old hillbilly too. Working with people in my area is always a big, a big advantage. You know, we used to sponsor a lot of matches at Rock Castle before it was gone. You know, we do 3 or 4 or 5 matches a year there, and then maybe 1 or 2 out and about. But really, what we're looking for is a match that's either helping people out. Like, part of the reason I like the Mountain State is the random draw. Now, people who don't normally have an opportunity to win a gun or things like that, to me, that's cool. And as a guy who doesn't shoot very well, like, you have an opportunity there to win something besides a little jug of oil and a sticker, which there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate those too. I got tons of those little jugs of oil now. But the other thing is, like with Pro-Am, that's a huge match. And you got to put things on the pro side table. You got to put things on the AM side table. So you can invest a lot of money real fast. Well, I don't mind the AM side as much, getting really cool stuff. Like the last year we did at Rock Castle, I loaded the AM table down and I put a few cool things on the pro table, because 2 out of the 3 things that were put on the pro table that year were sold before we left.
Yep. And I've kind of heard that, companies, at a lot of matches, the guys who are winning the cool guns, I remember years ago seeing like an FN Ballista, which was like a $6,000 rifle where you could switch out barrels and all that stuff. As soon as that match was over, that gun was on the internet getting sold within a day.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a slap in the face.
Exactly.
To the company.
That's what I was going to say. It's kind of a kick in the face to us. You're giving stuff away, bottom line. That's it. But you're not doing it to just give it away. As a company, we're doing it, one, to get our name out there a little more, especially a small company like us. We're just trying to get exposure in different places. And hopefully these people that come to these huge matches will take your product back to their local clubs. And that's where you start to really make an impact, is on those people. The pro shooters already have their kit. right? You're not really going to sway them for one match. Now, if you can do several matches and really work that and try to do it nationwide, that's probably the best approach, because then you're going to start to, get all those little gun clubs when they go back. But really the big thing is you hate to see your stuff being sold before you ever leave the match. But in one instance that I know about, at least it went to somebody that actually got to use it and appreciated it, and he got a good deal on it. So,
Checks and balances.
There's some advantages there, but generally speaking, for me, I like helping out the small matches a little bit better. It makes me feel better as a person. I don't know. I feel like those people are going to appreciate it and use it and really get the advantages out of it for being there.
No, me and my buddy Jay, and JK, which you shot with at Mountain State. One thing we really like and enjoyed about the Mountain State match this year it's got that local mentality in a major setting,
Right.
where everybody just really gets along. Everybody really just hangs out and everybody's just having a good time, and people are still trying to be as competitive as they can be.
Right.
And
no matter how hard it's raining.
yeah, that'll be a special video that we were kind of talking. Hey,
That's
what to
right.
bring whenever it's raining?
That's good.
We'll do a special video just for that. Like, hey, this is what you need to have with you at all times in case it rains.
That's it.
But before we take off here, is there anything that you'd like to leave the listeners with before we cut out?
So as a shooter, if you're really interested in getting in and getting sponsored by a company, remember the things that we said earlier, because it is important. And you guys know it's important for you guys when you go to the range, who you pick to squad with. I have one rule, and it's don't be a dick. I got a sticker, there's a pin, everything. I have no time for that. If you can't get along with people, then we don't want to work with you. Let's just be honest. But be good to people. Take care of your people. When you get there, take care of people you don't even know. That's how you build a good reputation on the range, is helping out, being approachable, and going out there and having a good time. But if they see you throwing stuff and kicking and fussing and carrying on, you don't last long. And we've all seen that too.
Oh yeah.
And buy some stuff from DoubleStar, please.
And speaking on that, so we're at the end of the episode. If you made it this far to the end of the episode, we do have discount codes.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm not going to give out that discount code here, but if you do want a discount code, whether right now it's through Red Stitch Targets or in DoubleStar Rifles, please reach out to the 3GIQ podcast, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook, and DoubleStar itself. Let us know that you listen to the podcast, and we will get you a code. That way you can get a percentage off of the next product you purchase from those two companies. So we really hope you did enjoy this episode. If you have any questions, please reach out.